Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this video, I'm going to show you how to stick together my free layered baby pram or carriage SVG. This is a really nice design for welcoming any new baby to the world, with the beautiful balloons in the top and the carriage complete with a little baby blanket. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to upload the free SVG into Cricut Design Space and how to recolor it for if you don't want to make a blue pram. Let's get started. You can download the free cutting file for this project at craftwithsarah.com/free-SVGs or follow the link in the description of this video to go straight to the download page. The download comes in a zip folder and you need to unzip this before you can upload the files into Cricut Design Space. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, it's time to get the SVG file into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project, and then get into Upload over on the left and Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the file on your computer, or you can drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of the folder, and then the file to choose is the one which starts SVG in the file name. Click and drag that in, and it should look like this with all of the layers one on top of the other. If yours looks different and you see the layers next to each other instead, that means you've accidentally uploaded the wrong file type. So if that's the case, click Cancel down on the bottom and try again, and make sure you choose the one which starts SVG. This one's looking good, so I can press Upload on that bottom right, and then it will appear in my recent uploads. Click on it to get the green border, and then press Add to Canvas. Here's how the design looks when it loads in. You don't really have to change anything. You could just resize it if you wanted to make it fit your shadow box or greetings card or wherever you want to put it. But I thought I'd show you quickly how to change the colours in case you don't want to cut out a blue pram. So I will go from a blue pram to a pink one. Let's see how to do it. First, I'm going to go down to my bottom layer and choose the blue layer which appears second from the bottom. This is the darkest shade of blue, so I need this to be my darkest shade of pink. Go into the colour box and then press Advanced. I'm going to drag it over to the pink and choose a colour in here. Still want it to be quite pastel-y. I think I'll go for that one. And now I can go into Colour Sync on the top right, find my darkest blue, which is this one, and then I'm going to close all of these up. I don't like this new Colour Sync with all of these little arrows. It makes it harder to use in my opinion. But now I can drag all of that darkest blue onto my new pink to change the colour. I've now got to do the mid pink, so let's go back to layers and find one of those blues. The balloons at the top is one of them. I'm going to change it to the same pink just so that it picks it in the colour picker for me, and then just drag it a little bit lighter. And then go back to my colour sync again. Close some of these up, very annoying. And then there's only one more of that mid blue, so let's drag that onto my new pink, which is that one, to change the colour there. Finally, there's one more shade of blue to change, so let's click on one of those layers, choose that mid pink we just selected, and then drag it a bit lighter. And for this one, rather than do colour sync, I'm just going to choose the blue layers in here, because now it's really obvious that this is the right one because it's the only blue left. Choose my lightest one in there. And there we go, that's it. So now I've got all of those changed. And if you wanted to, you could change the balloons as well. So for example, I might want to make them pink too. Let's go for the mid pink on top and a pale pink underneath. So it's nice and fairly quick and easy, although Design Space is trying to make it a bit more tricky with that new colour sync. But you can change the colour on the screen so that you know how it's going to look once you cut it out from your cardstock. I'm going to stick with the original blue colours though, so let's just select everything and delete it and bring in the original one again. I want to make it a little bit smaller, so click on it if you want to resize it. Make sure the padlock icon above the width and the height is closed. If it's open, then click it to close it, and then change the size. I'm going to go for 6 inches wide. And when I hit return on my keyboard, you see the height changed in proportion. So that's looking exactly as it should. I can now go ahead and press Make It. This separates out all of the colours onto the different mats. You can change the paper size in this drop down. And to help save your paper, you can move things around so that they take up less space. Just make sure that nothing overlaps, otherwise it won't cut out properly. Once you've got all your pages looking how you want them to, press Continue to connect to your Cricut machine, get all of the layers cut out from cardstock, and then I'll show you how to stick them together. Here are all of the layers of my little baby carriage cut out, and I've just laid them on top of each other to check I'm happy with the design and that I'm happy with all the colours, and most importantly that I haven't missed anything. But I am happy with how that is looking. So I'm going to move all the layers off because we want to start at the bottom and work our way up. I'm going to try and keep the like-minded pieces together. So I'm just sort of grouping these. It'll just make it easier to find the bits when I come to glue them on. Let's try and get all those balloons off as one. And I probably should have done that bit with it as well. There we go. What I'm actually going to do first is put that back on and glue that little heart on. Otherwise, I know I'm going to lose it. So keep the filigree bit on the carriage to know exactly where the heart is supposed to go. I'm just going to put this on first with a teeny little bit of glue. There you go. And if you do lose the little heart, you don't have to have it on there. It still looks lovely without it. You could maybe replace it with a heart-shaped sequin or gemstone or something like that. Okay, so I've moved all that apart, and then I'm left with this base piece, and I'm going to use my foam squares for this. So let's turn it over, being careful not to dislodge that heart because the glue will still be wet, and then I can add the foam. I'm using the foam that comes on a sheet, so you can kind of see it here. My sheet would have been a lot bigger, but because these foam squares are quite large, I've cut them smaller with a pair of scissors. And they all sort of fell apart into these little strips. But that means I only need to use them at half the size, so they'll go twice as far. Alrighty, let's start adding some of these. You want to make sure when you're adding your foam that you put a good amount on there, so that this will stick really firmly, because it's going to have all the other layers on top of it. So it needs to be really, really well stuck to this base piece. And also, as well as putting bits around the edge, put some in the middle too, to make sure you've got a nice, level, stable selection of foam squares. Because if you leave any big gaps of your cardstock without any foam, then it might sort of dome down under the weight of itself and the other layers on top, and we don't want that. In fact, I think I'm going to put one more piece in those balloons. Toying with the idea of cutting some smaller to put them around the wheel, and I think I will. So cut these even thinner. Put a couple of little pieces around the edge. And it's for that exact same reason. I don't want it to fall downwards and touch that layer underneath. I want it to have the same amount of dimension as the rest of the piece. One more should do it. There we go. All right, so now that's got those 3 little bits, it's going to be much sturdier. And then I can peel the tops off to reveal all of that stickiness underneath. Now let's put it onto the main bit here. Line up that wheel and then the edge of the hood on the pram and then the balloons. And then just gently drop it down to start with so that if it's not lined up and you need to pick it up, you can do without ruining anything. But I'm happy with how that's looking, so I'm going to push down to seal all of those foam pieces. The next bit to add is the filigree detail for the pram, which is going to go here, and this will be a glue layer. The glue I'm using is called Kalal. I really like it because it doesn't bend or wrinkle the cardstock like some other glues can do. And then I put it into these needle tip applicator bottles, which are perfect for going in all of these little details. Move that a little bit. Trying to keep this in shot so you can actually see. So these bottles, they let out just a little bit of glue at a time. So you're never going to get big splotches where it's put too much out. And you can get into all of these details, including that little edge around the pram, really, really easily. When you're picking these up, be careful with the stalks, ribbons, stems of the balloons, as that is quite flimsy and you don't want to rip it. So just make sure that you support that when you're turning it round. And I'm just going to gently tap that down because I don't want any of the glue to smush out sides. And there we go, there's that piece done. Next I'm going to work on the wheels. Got this one here, which is going to sit back a little bit against there. And then the larger one, which is going to go onto there. Do this one first, and I'm going to foam this up so that it becomes the same height as that wheel. It is a bit tricky getting the foam into this piece. You might have to cut it smaller. Got some fairly narrow bits, but I don't think they're actually narrow enough. So make some even skinnier. It is always difficult working with small bits of foam, but it's kind of worth the effort to get the correct dimensions to it when it's all stuck together, because we want these wheels to look like they're sort of level with each other in real life, which is why we're adding the foam to this one, but we don't need to add the foam to the matching grey bit on the other side. So at least that's some good news. You don't have to do it again. Right. I'm going to line this up so that the spokes in the wheel match the ones there. I'm not sure if it is actually symmetrical, so you just might want to double check before you push it down. And then next I will glue the black bit around the edge, the tyre. Not very good at thinking of the names of things today. There, and then for the middle of the wheel, you can either glue it or use a little bit of foam. I am feeling like foam would be a good thing to do. A bit in the middle. And then add that circle. For the bigger wheel, this will all be glued, so much easier. Turn the grey bit upside down and add your glue. And then line up the spokes. There we are. And then next is the tyre. Pop that on there. And to keep it consistent, I'll add the foam for the middle. Bit of foam there. and stick it on. The next thing to do is the edge of the crib. So it looks like this, and it's got this open gap here. And then you'll have cut a piece the same colour as the layer underneath. And what we're going to do is glue that to there so it goes on the back, and then foam this whole piece upwards. So it's a little bit fiddly, but turn it upside down and then take your glue and run it down the edges of that sort of ridge on the pram, and it goes all the way to the other side, so I'm going to add a bit there too. And then take your long thin strip, glue it down like that. And then whilst that's gluing, I'm going to start adding my foam to this piece. I'll start in the bits where there aren't any glue so I don't accidentally dislodge it. Yeah, it's still wet because I just moved it. Oh dear, that's what I get for rushing when I'm on video. I would recommend leaving that to dry properly before you add the foam. Don't do what I did. Now I can peel up these to get them all sticky. And then being careful with those balloons again. Drop this down on top. There. All right, this is looking good. Next, we just need a teeny little bit of glue on that circle there to add the sort of hinge bit of the pram that would cover up, you know, the hinge where you can pull the hood up or down. And then next, we've got the balloons. So I'm going to start with the one that's connected to the little blanket cover, and this will be a glue layer because for the very bottom balloons we don't need them to be raised up against what's already there. The other balloons that we're going to put on top of this one will be foamed to give you that dimension. So let's glue that one down. And then the detail layer on top will also be glued. And if these ones are a bit fiddly, you can leave off these balloon details. They just kind of give it a bit of outline, but they're not essential. They'll still look really nice without it. There we go. Oops, smudged my glue a bit there. But I'm sure it's fine. And then next we have this one, and we'll start with the solid layer, which will be a foam layer. And put that on so it'll cover up the solid space left on the other one. And then this one, to make the outline, will be glued. Just got glue all over my fingers doing that one. It wasn't very clever. And then finally for the balloons is the little one all on his own. The solid one will be foamed, and it really, really looks like these balloons are popping out. There we go, that one there. And then this one is a little bit fiddly. Just get my glue around there and then stick that on top. There. Right, we are very, very close to the edge. We've just got the detail in the blanket to go. And this is made up of 3 layers. There we are. Now it's up to you on this one if you want to foam it or glue it. It does have quite a lot of dimension in it already, but because the balloons are so far out, we do have that space to use foam on this too, which is what I'm going to do. So this is only a little tiny bit, so it doesn't need very much foam. Then stick that on there. And then we've only got 2 bits left. So glue these 2. They're just creating a kind of pattern on the blanket. And have I just done that the wrong way? Nope, that's right. So it lines up along the top so that you've then got little scallop edges down the side. And then, just to finish off on a tricky one, there's the last layer of detail for the blanket. So let's stick that one on. There we are. Just going to put the lid on my glue, as I always forget, and then it dries out. Okay, so here is our pram. If I hold it into the light, you can see all of those layers. It's really, really nice and perfect for all of your new baby celebrations. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make the layered papercraft pram, which is available to download for free at craftwithsarah.com. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Cricut crafts and free SVGs. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!